Today I'm going to share with you how to use a resist technique to create a fun bistro signboard with any saying that you want to have on it. So I'm Jennifer Priest. I'm going to share with you how to create this look with stencils, masks, and stickers, as well as how to custom color fabric with Colorbox Crafters ink. So the first thing you need to do is get a bistro signboard. This one is from Walnut Hollow, and I took some white acrylic paint and painted the whole thing to kind of prime it so that I would have a surface to work on with my ink, because I didn't want the actual wood color showing through. You could do the same thing without doing the paint. You could just have the wood showing through when you do the next few steps. So you want to make sure you coat the whole thing in white and let that dry really, really well. Now once that's dry, you're going to take a series of stencils, and these are actually from Clear Snap. They're called Colorbox art screens, and you can use Colorbox chalk ink and Colorbox Crafters ink to color the wood through the stencils. So I'm just using a stylus and tip set. This is a two-part applicator that you can press into the ink, and then you just rub that onto the stencil, as I'm doing here in the picture. And you'll repeat that process to cover the whole signboard. Now keep in mind your letters are only going to be in the middle, so you don't need to cover all the sides of the signboard with stenciling, just the center of the board. So I'm layering different stencils here. You could do this with any kind of stencils. And what I like about the Colorbox Crafters ink is you get this soft look when you're applying it through a screen like this versus if you were using something like acrylic paint. So I'm just layering lots of different things here. This is for a friend of mine who likes kind of psychedelic stuff from the 60s and 70s, and so I thought this would be really fun to layer all these different patterns. Now this bloom art screen is one of my favorites because what I actually figured out is if you just do the center, it looks like smaller flowers, so you don't have to do big flowers. Now this ink is a pigment ink, so it stays wet, so you will need to heat set it. And I just did this over the entire thing, heat set all that ink to make it permanent for the next step. And this will also make it permanent when it's hanging in your home or your friend's home or whoever you decide to give this to. Next, I have these really cool 4-inch tall vinyl sticker letters from Westcott. They're actually from the See-Through Ruler Company, and that's a division of Westcott. You can get them on Amazon, and I have the link in my blog post, which is linked down in the description. And I'll put a little blurb here somewhere that you can click on to get to the blog post. But basically what I'm going to do is lay out my letters, and these are going to mask the pattern area that I created from some paint in the next step. So you want to make sure your letters are laid out all centered. You could use smaller letters if you wanted the word to go another way, or you could create your own vinyl letters, but I really like these really big, bold sticker letters from Westcott. Now after your letters are on, you want to make sure they're pressed down really, really well because you don't want the paint to bleed. And then use a foam paintbrush to apply the paint to the board. And you can kind of dab it on it first just to make sure that it gets on there. And then your future layers, you can paint them on. So I'm just adding all of my black paint here. Now you don't have to do this black, you could do it just with a darker color. You want to have some contrast there, or you could even go over it with white. But I really wanted to have a stark contrast between my area that I did all the cool stenciling on and the actual sign itself. Now you don't have to have your sign say love. You can have it say bistro or vino for wine, or whatever it is that you want to have it say. It doesn't have to have the same quote, so get creative with it. All right, now after you paint it, you're going to let that dry for a couple hours, and then take a pin, or here I have some sharp tweezers, and peel away those vinyl letters, and that's going to reveal your stenciled, like, colorful background that was underneath. So this is a kind of a reverse stenciling or a masking technique. Everywhere that you put the vinyl letters, that's not going to have any paint on it. So it's kind of a cool way to add color and kind of do things in a little bit of a reverse type fashion. And you want to be really careful not to peel up any of the pretty layers that you've already laid down. Next, I took 2 pieces of just plain white fabric, and these are some stencils also from the See-Through Ruler Company. I took a heart stencil and traced it with a marker onto the fabric, and now I'm going to use my Colorbox art screens and Colorbox Crafters ink with that stylus to apply color to the fabric. So it's really nice as you can make custom fabric. You just need a white piece of fabric, or you could use colored fabric, but not all the colors of the ink will show up on that. You can use any color fabric, make your own custom patterns, and then set it with an iron, and that will make it permanent. So it's a really cool way to make your own custom stuff. And this white fabric I got in the remnant section at a local craft store. I really like using remnants because they're super affordable. So if you find white remnants, now you can stamp the little individual pieces and you don't have to buy a bunch of different types of fabric. So here I'm taking 2 pieces of this white fabric and I'm stenciling the second one now with that art screen. The art screens wash off with water. I use lots of different stuff on them, so mine are kind of messy. Once the fabric is stenciled, pin the 2 pieces together and then use some sharp Westcott scissors to cut out the 2 pieces of fabric at the same time along that line. And you want to cut on the inside of the line that you drew, that way you don't see the line. Next, you're going to lay both sides, right sides together, and sew around it with a sewing machine, leaving the middle part open so that you can fill it with batting. And you can use like a chopstick or a pencil to kind of help push out those corners and curves on the heart. Next, press it to make it heat set and to lay it flat. And then you're going to use some stamps to lay out whatever words you want to put on this, if you want to put any words. And the reason you want to stamp the words after the heart is made is so you can make sure everything is centered. If you stamped it before you sewed it all together, it might be off center once you actually sew it. So my sign is going to say "Love is all you need," which is after the Beatles song. And I just stamped this again with more of that crafter's ink, and then I took this over and heat set that in my iron to make sure that ink was permanent. And then instead of buying an expensive bag of batting, I took a cheap dollar store stuffed animal that I got for $1 and filled my heart with batting from that. And I actually have lots of extra batting. I could probably make 5 or 6 of these hearts. You can also make these for Christmas ornaments or as like an ornament to tie onto a gift instead of hanging it from the BISTRO sign. So the next thing you're going to do is double over a piece of embroidery floss and put it through a needle. So you want two lengths of embroidery floss, and you're going to do a blanket stitch around the entire edge of the heart. So that's going to close off the middle of the heart where you put the batting, and we're also going to kind of cover that up with some ribbon later, but it's also going to give the heart a little bit more of a homespun kind of crafty feel, and that's what I wanted for this project. So you can look up online how to do a blanket stitch, but basically as you stitch each stitch, you run your needle through the loop of thread so that it kind of hooks onto itself and runs over to the next stitch. So you'll want to tie this off really, really well when you get to the end, and put the knot on the back of the heart, because that's where we're going to put some hot glue to kind of secure everything together. Now this isn't actually embroidery floss. It's like some other kind of craft floss they sell in the embroidery section that's almost braided, and it's way cheaper. You can get like 100 skeins for $10 or something. All right, now that my heart is done, I'm going to attach it to the sign with some ribbon. And you can kind of, here you can see my process of trying to figure out which ribbon is going to match. You can do that. Just lay your supplies next to each other and see what actually looks better. So you're going to run a length of ribbon through the hole on the BISTRO sign, cut it to size, hot glue the 2 strips together, and then hot glue your heart on top of the strips. And you want to press that down to make sure that it sticks really well. Next, you will tie a bow and then glue that to the front of the heart and also to those ribbon strips, and that's kind of a fun extra embellishment, and that's also going to help cover up all of the knots. Next, use a picture hanger and screw that to the back of the sign, and it's ready to hang on your wall. You can give this to a friend, you can use it to brighten up a dorm room or an office, or you can even change the saying. And again, you could take the heart and instead of hanging it on the BISTRO sign, you could put it as its own ornament. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please hit that thumbs up button for us and hit the subscribe button if you're cool. See you here again soon. Bye.